Today my goal is to help you feel prepared for your quiz tomorrow. So we're going to be reviewing over 2.1 and 2.2. If you would, please pull out your red pen and we're going to fill in this first part right here. These are the rules about multiplying and dividing integers. Let's see if we can remember this. If you have an even amount of negative signs, I want you to take your red pen, draw a cloud around the word even, and underline the word negative signs. If you have an even amount of negative signs, your answer will always be positive. Great job, guys. All right, go ahead and fill that in the blank with your red pen. Let's go to the next one. If you have an odd amount, once again, draw a little cloud around that and underline the word negative signs. If you have an odd amount of negative signs, your answer will always be negative. Now, there will be a section on your quiz tomorrow and also on your test next week. Our test next week will be on Wednesday. That'll be true and false, and it'll have something to do with these statements right here. So what I try to do a lot of times is try to come up with an example of how to describe that so I can have some kind of visual to help me. So if it says if I have an even amount of negative signs, let's just say 2. I'm going to do 2 negative numbers. What's a negative number that's kind of small? I try to do smaller ones.
3.
All right, -3. Just do it over here to the side of the word positive. -3. And what's another negative number, class?
-5.
All right, I heard -5. That's a small one. Because that's an even amount, is my answer going to be positive or negative?
Positive.
It's going to be positive, so what's the answer?
15.
Positive 15, because there were 2 negative signs. Let's look at the next one and see if we can come up with an example. And once again, you could come up with any numbers there. If you have an odd amount of negative signs, typically you'll have like 1 or 3. So let's just do 1. What's one negative number?
-3.
-2 is one we haven't used yet. And then let's do a positive one, because we need an odd amount of negative numbers. What's a...
4.
Okay, I heard 4, 7. You guys can put any number you want there, actually. I'm going to choose 4. Once again, you could put any one. Is my answer now going to be positive or negative?
Negative.
It will be negative because there's only 1. That's an odd number. So what is my answer, class? -8. Okay, so once again, this helps me just to kind of visualize it, especially in the case of a true or false. So when you have true and false, really look at it carefully and see if you can give yourself an example to see, is it true or is it false? Let's do some problems now. You can put your red pen up at the top of your desk. You do not need your red pen anymore for the remainder of today's lesson. First one, Ariana, 2 times -4.
8.
Okay, and how many negative numbers do you see there? 1, and the number 1 is odd, so up at the top it says if you have an odd amount of negative signs, your answer will be negative, so the correct answer is -8. Next one, Emma, -4 times +5. Okay, it is -20, and once again, that's because there's only 1 negative sign, and that's an odd number, so my answer has to be negative. I want you guys to do problem C on your own. Class, what's the answer? Okay, it's going to be a +12 because there were 2 negatives, and that is an even number of negative signs. Let's go on to the next one. Find the quotient. Remember, when you see that word quotient, this means we are dividing. I want you guys to do those 3 problems on your own and stand behind your chair once you have done A, B, and C. Please do not go past number 2. All right, it looks like just about everyone is finished. Have a seat for me. Just the girls, answer for me. What is -10 divided by 5?
-2.
-2. The answer has to be negative because there's only 1 negative sign. Okay, and then 10 divided by 5 is 2. So the answer is -2. Boys, -8 divided by -2. 4. That is going to be a positive because I had 2 negative signs. The number 2 is even. When I have an even number of negative signs, my answer is always positive. Final one, if you are wearing a pair of pants today, what is -25 divided by -5? That is going to be +5. Very good. Let's go to the next section. Evaluate the expression when x equals -3 and y equals 6. What I always like you to do is I want you to circle with your pencil up at the top the instructions for what x is and what y is. Now, as I'm glancing out in the room, I can see some people who are going ahead. Please do not go ahead. I want you to stay with us, okay? Because if not, sometimes when you go ahead, you might do it incorrect. So stay with me, please. Repeat after me. Plug it in, plug it in.
Plug it in, plug it in.
All right, AJ, what am I plugging in for y? 6 is correct. And what am I plugging in for x? -3 is correct. Class, what does it mean when I have a fraction bar?
Divide.
I am dividing. So if you can see here, out of this problem, I have one negative sign. So is my answer going to be positive or negative?
Negative.
It will be negative. What's the answer, class?
-2.
-2. Box it in. On to the next one. When I have 3 next to a letter, does that mean 3 plus x, 3 minus x, 3 times x, or 3 divided by x?
3 times x.
3 times x. So we're going to remember that as we plug these numbers in. Gabe, help me. What should I do first? All right, we're going to drop down the 18, drop down the divide, but now I've got something where I've got to plug it in. Instead of saying 3 times x, what am I going to say, class?
3 times -3.
3 times -3. Okay, who can help me with this right here? What is 3 times -3? Miley?
It is, I forgot or something. It's -9.
-9. So everybody underline that. We're going to drop that down because we got to figure out what 3 times x is. It's going to be a -9. What should I do with this 18 in the divide?
Drop it down.
Drop it down. Now remember, is this a rule where I'm going to be adding and subtracting, or am I going to be multiplying and dividing? Multiplying and dividing, okay? If it helps you, you can put parentheses around the -9 just to help you know this is a negative number, but you don't have to put parentheses there. All right, so at this time, I know I'm dividing, okay? So I've got to count my signs, even and odd. Do I have an even or an odd amount of negative signs? An odd, there's only one, so my answer has to be negative. What is 18 divided by 9? 2, and we already knew it was a negative, so your answer is -2. All right, here we go for this next part. I'm going to circle this one more time for my screen. X squared divided by 3 plus 5. What am I plugging in for x, class? -3. Now, here's what I want you to notice. Do I have to square the 3 or do I have to square the -3? This is where it could be tricky. Look what it says. I have to square x. What is x? It is a -3. Therefore, I must square the -3. Okay, so I know there weren't parentheses there to start with, but know that the x is a -3, so I have to square my -3. Then I'm going to put the little square divided by 3 plus 5. What does -3 squared mean?
-3 times -3.
Correct, because it's multiplying by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and put -3 times -3. And continue to bring down, divide by 3, and add 5. On this, is there any work I need to do in the numerator or the denominator?
Yes.
Yes, I got to do what the numerator is. -3 times -3. What is that, class?
9.
It is 9. Now I've got 9 divided by 3 plus 5. According to PEMDAS, should I do my divide first or should I do my adding first? We're always going to do the dividing part first. What is 9 divided by 3?
3.
It is 3. What is 3 plus 5?
8.
And your correct answer is 8. All right, now I want you guys to take just a minute and try to do problem D on your own. When you guys think you have the correct answer for problem D, I want you to stand for me. Remember, when a number is next to a letter, that means to do what? Multiply. Okay, I'm seeing two main answers as I walk through. Did anybody get a negative 12? Did anybody get a 0? Okay, those are the two answers that I saw, and I want to talk you through it. So go ahead and have a seat. Instead of saying 2 times x, what will I write, class?
2 times negative 3.
2 times negative 3. And instead of saying plus y, I'm going to say plus 6. What should I do first? Should I multiply these together or should I add that? Let's multiply it together. So remember, what I want you guys to do each time is underline it. What is 2 times negative 3?
Negative 6.
Negative 6. What do I do to this plus 6?
Bring it down.
Bring it down. Now what you have to do is really focus on, am I adding and subtracting or am I multiplying and dividing now? What am I doing? I am adding and subtracting. Listen, there is nothing here that has parentheses to tell me, hey, you're having to multiply it. No, I have negative 6 plus 6. A number and its opposite always equals 0. So the correct answer here is 0. All right, on the back of your paper, it says evaluate the expression negative 4 squared. This kind of a problem you have to show work. Can someone explain to me what kind of work you might have to show for problem A? What do you think?
Negative 4 times negative 4.
Excellent. You must show that step. Also, this is a great visual for you to see how many negative signs are there.
2.
2, so your answer has to be what, positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, so the answer is
16.
positive 16. I want you to try problem B on your own. Stand on your chair or behind your chair once you have an answer. All right, hop down for me. Let me hear some answers you guys got. Who can give me one?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. 50. 22. Negative 2. Negative 22. All right, a lot of different answers for these ones. Repeat after me. PEMDAS.
PEMDAS.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally.
Okay, the P stands for parentheses. Do I have any of those?
No.
The E stands for exponents. Do I have any exponents? No. The M and the D are together. Is there any multiplication or division?
Yes.
What is it?
5 times 2 or 2 times 2.
Underline this, please. If you did not do that, this is a step I want to see there. What's 2 times 5?
10.
10. Everything else must get dropped down, okay? When people just made the mistake, they forgot to do their multiplication first. If that's you, erase what you did and fix this for me. Now everything else drops down. I have 8 plus 4, and remember, bring down that minus also. What comes next? Should I do my adding or my subtracting?
Addition.
Let's do the addition because we have to work from left to right with addition and subtraction. So underline what you're doing for your next step. What's 8 plus 4? 12. Drop the last part down. What is 12 minus 10? 2. Who got 2? All right, a few people did get 2. Remember, order matters. All right, I want you guys to look at problem C. Try to do that one on your own. Go ahead and put your pencil on top of your head once you think you have the right answer. Okay guys, what does P in PEMDAS stand for? Parentheses. As I walked around, I saw a lot of people who had underlined this. If you didn't, underline it for me now. You can go ahead and take that pencil off your head. What is 6 minus 3? 3. Now here's what else I saw. Some people just dropped down the 2. What else needs to be dropped down? bring down those parentheses because that tells me I'm multiplying. So my answer is 6. All right, so listen, when I have modeling real life problems, there will be problems exactly like this. Now, tomorrow is your quiz, but Wednesday is your test, okay? So you might find one of these on the quiz and a different one on the test. That's why I want to go over it today in your review notes. A lot of times we see this big, long paragraph and we get scared, or we think, I give up, I'm not even going to try. Let me help you to understand. Don't give up. Let me help you to try. You play a game on your phone, and for every correct move you make, you receive how many points? 15 points. Read along with me as I read this. For every second that it takes you to complete the game, you lose 2 points. You complete the game in how many seconds? 30. And how many correct moves did you do? The question is now, how many points is your final score? There are 2 things I have to take into consideration when I'm trying to find this answer. Who can tell me one of the things I have to look at to see what my score will end up being? What 2 things do I have to take into consideration? How do I get the points, though? How do I get positive or negative points? What am I looking at? There's 2 key things here.
You lose.
How do I lose points? By what?
For every second.
Second. Okay, the time. I have to look at the time. That's going to help me out here, okay? So everybody write the word time. That's the first thing I have to take into consideration. There's another thing I also have to take into consideration when trying to figure out the time. I'll lose some points because of my time, but I can gain points. How? For correct moves. Everybody write that down. Correct moves. Those are the only 2 things I've got to look at to help me figure out what my answer is. So let's talk about the time first. What does it tell me about the time? Miley?
Times it by 2 because you lose 2 points for each second.
Okay, it tells me I lose 2 points for every second I'm playing that game. If I'm losing 2 points, is that positive 2 or negative 2? That's a negative 2. So let's go ahead right there next to the word time. Negative 2. I lose 2 points for every single second it takes me. Does my original problem tell me how many seconds it took me?
Yes.
Yeah, how many? It took me 30, okay? So I could go negative 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 2 plus negative 2, and I could do that 30 times. But there's an easier way to do that. What could I do? Multiply it. Negative 2 times 30. Do we know what negative 2 times 30 is? What is it? Negative 60. Now, that's not my final answer, but that's a very important piece of my answer. So I want us to circle negative 60. We're not going to box it. Boxing tells me that's my final answer. But I do know I need to remember I lost 60 points because of how long it took me. Let's talk about the correct moves. If I have correct moves, I can gain some points. How many points do I get for every correct move? 15. Okay, so it says right here, for every correct move you make, you receive 15 points. So let's write 15 there. Does it tell me how many correct moves I had?
5.
I had 5. So what do I have to do to 15 and 5? Multiply it. Once again, I could do 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15. Or if I just multiply it by 5, that will also give me the correct answer. If you don't know how to do that in your head, remember you can always just do it off to the side. Guys, what's 15 times 5?
75.
75 is correct. Now, for those correct moves, am I getting positive or negative points? Positive points, okay? So I'm going to put just a plus 75 because that'll help me know I'm gaining that. So here's the deal. I have negative 60 and I have positive 75. All you need to do, and it doesn't matter which order you do it in. Negative 60 plus 75. This is going to tell you how many points your final score is. When I do a problem like this, am I adding and subtracting or am I multiplying and dividing? Adding and subtracting. There's nothing here that tells me I multiply or divide. So remember our rules for adding and subtracting. What are they, class? Same sign, add and keep. Different sign, subtract. Take the sign of the larger number, then you'll be exact. Same sign or different sign? Different sign. Subtract and take. What's your answer?
15. Negative 15.
15 what?
Points. Positive.
15 points. Remember, with a modeling real life problem, you must have units attached. When I'm trying to figure out what my units should be, I go back here. How many points is your final score? So I know my answer is 15 points. If you get to the point and you're like, I just don't understand the modeling real lives, this will be on YouTube. Go to my YouTube channel, look for it, okay, try to find it. If not, go to our Google Classroom. I've linked in all the YouTube videos there too to help you for review. I promise you there will be problems like this on your quiz and test, so please make sure you understand how to do a problem like this. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. It's the grizzly bear problem, and we did a problem just like this in class yesterday. There's a grizzly bear who weighed 300 pounds, and after hibernating for 5 months, she only weighed how much? 200 pounds. How much weight did she lose per month? There was this little formula I gave you yesterday in your notes. Does anybody remember the words that I used? We did a verbal model yesterday to help us with our notes. Chloe, do you remember?
I think it was the final result first, and then the one that she was before.
Very good. The final weight. Does anyone remember that other word?
Initial.
Initial weight. What do I have to do to those two? I'm going to subtract them. So we take the final weight and subtract the initial weight. Remember, the initial weight is the beginning weight. And then does anybody else remember what I've got to do next?
Divided by 5.
Divided by time.
I divide it by the time elapsed. This is one of those formulas you're going to want to remember for the grizzly bear. Repeat after me. Final minus initial. Divided by the weight. Final minus initial divided by the weight. All right, now what we're going to do is plug some numbers in. I want you to take just a second and see if you can figure out what was the final weight of that grizzly bear at the end of our problem? What was her initial weight at the beginning of the problem? And how much time elapsed or how much time passed? I'm going to give you just a minute to try to plug those numbers in. Okay, you're making the substitution now to plug in those numbers. Help me as you guys are working through this. What was the grizzly bear's final weight, class? 200 what? 200 pounds. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and color code it. There you are. Now we are subtracting her initial weight. Remember, that's her weight at the very beginning. Guys, what was her weight at the very beginning?
300.
It was 300 pounds. Once again, as you can see, I'm just plugging in things that we need to know here. Time elapsed. How much time was it?
5 months.
It was 5 months. So you've plugged it in correctly. Now we've got to get ourselves an answer. Let's start with just the numerator. What's 200 minus 300?
Negative 100.
Thank you for saying negative 100. Okay, she lost weight, so it's got to be in a negative direction. Over, I'm going to keep that down at the bottom. What did it say at the bottom? 5 what? Remember, keep those units for me. Next up, my question asks me, how much weight did she lose per month? Does this tell me how much she lost per month? No, my answer right here tells me how much she lost in 5 months. How do I turn that 5 in my denominator into a 1? Divide it by itself. So if I divide by 5 on bottom, what else do I do to the top? Divide by 5 on top. What's the answer, guys?
Negative 20 per month.
Negative 20 what per month?
Pounds.
Negative 20 pounds per month. Okay? I need to have this down here per month. Now, some people have asked me, could I write negative 20 pounds per month? That's also fine if you want to, or you can leave it as a fraction because that's how we showed our work before. But either way would be fine. You just got to tell me that that's how much she lost per month. If you just said negative 20 pounds, then I think you think she just lost 20 pounds overall. Okay? Does it make sense that our answer would be a negative? Yeah, how come?
Because she's losing weight.
Because she's losing the weight, not gaining it. So it's going down in a negative direction. Next up, on each quiz or test, there will also be questions that are review questions. Okay, so questions that we covered in the chapters before. We've only had one chapter before. It was chapter 1. That was all about adding and subtracting numbers. Let's look at the first one. Negative 5 plus 3. I want you to write the answer for that. And then I want you to write the answer for problem B. I don't want you to worry about problem C yet. Just do A and B first. Once you've answered just A and B, please go ahead and stand on your chair or beside your chair. All right, hop down for me, guys. Negative 5 plus 3. Answer?
Negative 2.
1.
Negative 2.
Oh, yeah.
Same sign, add and keep. Different signs, subtract and take. So 5 minus 3 is 2. Take the sign of the larger number. Negative 2. 2 thumbs up if you got that answer correct. Excellent. If you did not, just erase it. That's okay. Go to the next one. I have a case of a double sign here. Who always wins? The negative always wins. So I can get rid of that plus sign. And if I rewrite it, it's just 6 minus 5. What's the answer? 1. The next problem is the most heavily missed problem that we had on our quiz and test last time over chapter 1. Help me to understand this, okay? When I have a mixed number, what do I have to do at first before I do anything else?
Find the common, or not, multiply and add.
I will eventually find a common denominator, but there's something I've got to do before that.
Multiply and add to find the
Turn it into an improper fraction. Very good. So 2 times 3 would be 6, and then you add that 1, which would be 7. So what would that improper fraction be?
negative 7 over 2.
Okay, thank you for saying negative 7 over 2. Remember, when we have this negative sign there, I have to bring the negative sign down. Now, we are just going to keep moving on, and I've got to add this next part, so I'm going to drop it down. Plus 3/8. Can I just add across now? No, what do I need?
Common denominator.
You have to have a common denominator. So I want that 2 to be able to have the common denominator of 8. How do I get from a 2 to an 8? Multiply by 4. Whatever I do to the bottom, I got to be fair and do it to the top. So let's focus on this first fraction first. What will negative 7/2 turn into?
Negative 28.
Negative 28/8. And then I'm just going to drop down plus 3/8. Now, you've got to figure out which kind of a rule am I talking about here. Am I adding and subtracting these fractions, or am I multiplying and dividing them? I am adding and subtracting them. So remember our rules. Same sign, add and keep. Different sign, subtract and take. What's the answer?
Negative 25/8.
Excellent. Negative 25 over 8. Because we had different signs, you subtracted that 28 minus 3, which is 25. You took the sign of the larger number, which was the 28. Am I finished?
No.
What's wrong with this?
You have to make it or like a mixed number.
Okay, we've got to make it a mixed number. Notice up here, this original problem started with mixed numbers, which means your answer needs to come out as a mixed number, not as a decimal. So how do I turn negative 25/8 into a mixed number?
Divide 25 by 8.
You're right, I've got to divide 25 by 8. If you can figure out how many times 8 goes into 25 in your head, perfect. If you can't, just do it off to the side. 25 divided by 8. How many times does 8 go into 25? 3 times. 3 times 8? 24, and you have 1 remainder. So the answer is 3 and 1/8. Is that my final answer? No, why not? It's a negative because, once again, whenever you have the negative up here, you've got to drop that negative down. So your final answer is negative 3 and 1/8. Okay? Spend some time reviewing that, going over that. If you understand these green notes that we just went through, you're going to do excellent on your quiz. If there are parts that you don't understand, I want you to spend a little extra time going over it and reviewing. Tonight, there is a homework assignment. This is the one that we wrote down yesterday over 2.2. So it's going to mainly focus on reviewing how to divide integers. Please make sure tonight you are studying 2.1 through 2.2 for your quiz tomorrow.